si tratta solo di diritti individuali calpestati. Questa crisi ha profonde ripercussioni sulla stabilità dell'intera regione. La marginalizzazione delle minoranze alimenta tensioni sociali crescenti, mentre l'esodo di migliaia di persone rischia di trasformare il Bangladesh in un nuovo epicentro di instabilità geopolitica. Di fronte a questa situazione complessa, la comunità internazionale e in particolare l'Unione Europea deve adattare un approccio più incisivo. L'Europa ha storicamente esercitato la propria influenza mediante l'impiego coordinato di strumenti diplomatici, leve economiche e sostegno alle organizzazioni della società civile, conseguendo significativi risultati nell'orientare le politiche di governo e istituzioni. È tempo di applicare queste strategie anche in Bangladesh e la presenza dell'onorevole Martuscello e di tutto il PPE che è rappresentato da lui e da me testimoniano proprio questo impegno. L'Unione Europea deve farsi condizionare gli accordi commerciali e gli aiuti allo sviluppo al rispetto effettivo dei diritti umani utilizzando la pressione diplomatica e le condizionalità economiche come strumenti di cambiamento. Allo stesso tempo è cruciale sostenere la società civile garantendo protezione e finanziamenti alle organizzazioni per i diritti umani, ai difensori delle minoranze affinché possano proseguire la loro opera senza intimidazioni. Inoltre è necessario adottare sanzioni mirate contro i responsabili delle violazioni più gravi per garantire che l'impunità non diventi la norma. Il relatore speciale delle Nazioni Unite sul Bangladesh ha recentemente sottolineato la necessità di un maggiore coordinamento internazionale per fermare la deriva autoritaria del paese e garantire la sicurezza delle minoranze. In questo contesto l'Unione Europea siamo certi che rafforzerà la sua azione per evitare che tali violazioni non diventino una minaccia per la pace e la stabilità della regione. Le parole contano ma non bastano. Se vogliamo davvero essere promotori di pace e della giustizia, dobbiamo agire con decisione. Il Bangladesh è solo un esempio di una battaglia più ampia, quella per un mondo in cui nessuno debba temere per la propria vita o per la propria libertà a causa della propria identità. Grazie mille.
Thank you so much, Frenchie, for your support to the minorities and to women, especially.
Devo proprio scappare, in bocca al lupo e grazie.
Thank you for defending human rights and minorities in Bangladesh and also for standing for the truth and speaking about the abduction of young women and girls and the forced marriages, which are really a huge human rights violation for young women and girls in Bangladesh, specifically Hindu girls, but also sometimes other minorities and the Muslim majority as well. So we have today with us two members of the Norwegian Parliament, and we are really honored to have them as speakers today. So our next speaker is Jean-Éric Sell, who is a politician, a member of the Norwegian Parliament. He grew up in Bangladesh, United States and Bergen. When he was 2 or 3 years old, his family moved to Bangladesh, where his parents worked for about 10 years as missionaries for the Norwegian Central Mission. He holds a Master's of Theology degree from the University of Oslo. He worked as a chaplain in the Norwegian Armed Forces in 1997, and he was a teacher in Borum from 1998 to 2004. Sell was also educated at the Norwegian Home Guard School and Competence Center and served for a short period as a major in the Norwegian Home Guard in Bosnia in 2007. In the 2017 general election, Sell was nominated in first place in both Aust-Agder and Akershus County and second place in Oslo. Sell has previously served on the municipal council in Borum for the Conservative Party, and he has also been a member of the Progress Party. Thank you for joining us today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I think you are speaking prophetically. I'm not currently a member of parliament, but there is election in September, and we will be there. I'm here today because my love for Bangladesh. Bangladesh is my second home, my second country. I spoke Bengali more fluently than my mother tongue. I like rice and curry better than fish and potatoes. I grew up seeing the sunset over the rivers of Bangladesh, enjoying the morning mists over the rice fields, swimming in the beaches of Cox's Bazar. Bangladesh to me is a love that I cannot be silent when radicals takes it over. My family was on one of the last planes out of Dhaka International Airport in 1970 when the War of Independence broke out. I was 4 years old and I was walking with my friends shouting Jindabad, Bangladesh, Joy Bangla. Came back right after the war, and Sheikh Mujib Rahman, who's the father of the nation, started out on a wonderful course, making the constitution secular and socialist. His vision for Bangladesh was to make it a nation and a home for everyone without discernment of creed and race and religion, and his socialism was based on the idea of economic progress for all his people. This dream can still be saved. I want to add that I've been working in southern Kurdistan, in northern Iraq, meeting Yazidis who has been butchered by the ISIS. I was in Israel on October 7 and I've interviewed and have deep friends that were attacked by Hamas. I have been helping trafficking victims, Christians from Boko Haram in Nigeria. I have been working closely in South Sudan, meeting people that have been victims of the Janjaweed guerrilla, doing atrocities against their black Muslim brothers. Now we see the same jihadism, the same Islamism, the same diabolic atrocities going on in Bangladesh by people with the same sentiment. And we are gathered here because it cannot go on. We cannot be indifferent to atrocities against Yazidis, against Jews, against Christians, against black Muslims, nor can we be silent when we face atrocities against Hindus in Bangladesh. The Pakistan High Command at the War of Independence was targeting Hindus in Bangladesh deliberately. And this is a heritage that we need to cancel. Today, Nobel Peace Prize winner Muhammad Yunus is the leader of the caretaker government in Bangladesh. There is a special burden on him as a Nobel Peace Prize winner to not let jihadist atrocities go on in his country. And I call upon the Nobel Peace Committee to take a stand and address this issue. I also represent today the Bangladesh Stop Hate Movement. It's a global alliance, and we have done 2 peaceful marches in The Hague and in Rome, and we plan to do 20 more across the world. We are working to hold a hearing like this in the US Congress. And we call upon the European Union today to implement sanctions on the government on Bangladesh until they hear our voice and stop the atrocities. On the other side, we also need relief efforts. Just yesterday morning, I got messages from friends in Bangladesh where Hindu villages was attacked and burnt. Young women kidnapped. Their whereabouts are not known. But we know the pattern of rape and trafficking and destruction in the path of the jihadists. I'm here today to just raise a voice for my beloved Bangladesh, that freedom and peace and liberty shall reign for 160 million people that deserve it. Thank you.
Eric Sell, for your inspiring speech, and thank you for standing with the minorities all over the world who are victims of the Islamist fundamentalist movements. We want to welcome MEPs who have just come here. MEP Miriam Lexman, who is member of the European Parliament since 2019, and she's member of the Committee on Employment and Social Affairs, as well as Delegation for Relations with the People of the Republic of China. In July 2024, Miriam Lexman was elected Quaestor of the European Parliament, joining the Parliament's Executive Board, and she is also co-president of the Interparliamentary Alliance on China, IPAC, and the European Parliament's Informal Group on Hong Kong, reflecting her commitment to human rights and fundamental freedoms. We are really honored to have you with us today. Thank you for joining. We would like also to welcome His Excellency MEP Serban Dimitri Sulța, who is going to have a small speech today in Italian, right?
Not in Italian,
In English.
in
English,
okay,
okay.
sure, yeah.
As you like, as you like. We have two translators. Thank you. So the floor is yours. MEP Lexman? Yeah. So let's give the floor to MEP Lexman first, and then MEP Sulța. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed, human rights and religious freedom is something very important for me, maybe because I come from an ex-communist country and my predecessors were suffering of the communist regime and the obstructions given to their freedoms. I also founded an intergroup of the European Parliament, particularly looking into the religious freedom abroad, because I believe that this is a freedom which we need to focus the most, as we know that in many countries it is exactly where the regimes are growing or the democracy is deteriorating. Religious freedom is the first freedom which is being attacked, and it's a litmus test for the readiness of the society to either withstand pressure and stay democratic, or to fall into the non-democratic path. And for this reason, it's absolutely vital that the European Union is looking into the religious freedom in the third countries, because it's not only important as our moral duty to support religious freedom of people, which is one of the basic freedoms of every human being, but on the other hand, it's also important for us in terms of security, in terms of migration, because we do know that when the regimes outbreak, that supports migration, and this is one of the big issues we are trying to deal with in many countries of the European Union, and it's a topic which is very divisive in the European Union. And for that reason, I believe that if we would be more consistent in protecting religious freedom, as I said, it's not only our moral duty, but it's also service to our citizens and the security of our countries. When it comes to Bangladesh, we have to look into all minorities who are being prosecuted just because of their faith and belonging to the minority on the basis of the faith, where again, through this we could see where the regime is heading, and we should send signals as soon as possible.
And there are, again, many reasons why we need to do so, and one reason definitely is to create or to support the world order which is respectful to every human being and protecting human dignity. On the other hand, we also do see that China is trying to influence the situation in Bangladesh and expand its own economic interests through Bangladesh. And for this reason, it's also, again, important not only from the moral duties, but also from our own security position and position of defining and defending our own economic interests. And what is very important, and I would maybe like to react, is that sanctions were mentioned, and the problem is that we are sometimes very slow in reacting, unable to install sanctions, unable to target the perpetrators who need to be targeted, And we do have now the European version of the Magnitsky Act, which allows us not only sanction a country as such, but sanction concrete persons who are responsible for the human
rights breaches, which I believe that is a very, very powerful instrument. And unfortunately, the European Union is not using this instrument in a constructive way, where we would be able to defend our own interests, but on the other hand, also to protect people who are under the pressure of the different totalitarian and non-democratic regimes. This is maybe kind of call into our own circles, the European Union, but I wanted to raise it here because I believe that targeted sanctions is definitely one way how to address this issue. Another issue which is related to sanctions is the fact that we are unable to pursue the sanctions, that we see often that the sanctions are circumvented by our own companies, by our own enterprises, and we do not have a system which is helping us to address this issue. And this is when we go, when we talk about sanctions imposed on Russian individuals and Russia as such, where on the other hand,
and the circumvention of these sanctions, we do know that that practically supports the aggression against Ukraine. And we can have many examples of the weakness of the European Union to, after we finally react and we impose the sanctions, we are very weak in order to make sure that the sanctions are actually in place and are kept by the private sector. So here again, I would maybe raise this issue that it's very important that we, as European parliamentarians, are making pressure on the new Commission, relatively new Commission, that this will be one of the topics the Commission will take seriously, because otherwise the whole instrument of sanctions doesn't work and has no teeth, which obviously then it's again only a gesture that we claim that we are defenders of human rights worldwide, but on the other hand, the actual steps are missing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, MEP Mariam Lexman, for your clarification, and thank you for mentioning the sanctions that the EU can take. We will discuss this later. I think here the participants would ask questions, especially about the GPS Plus system that the EU has and uses with Pakistan, and also might use with Bangladesh. Thank you so much for your clarification and for your inspiring speech. We will give the floor now to to MEP Strutza, who is coming in the middle of a meeting. So thank you so much for being here today, and thank you for having time to share with us this panel. We are really honored by your presence, and we hope that you will share your insights with us. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. This is my opportunity to be here, and I'm very, very happy to be present. So, dear colleagues and dear guests, I would like to congratulate Mr. Fulvio Martuscello for his very good initiative in organizing this important discussion in light of the recent events in Bangladesh, a partner state of the European Union. As chair of the delegation for relations with the countries of South Asia, I am committed to supporting the best possible relations with Bangladesh. Over the past 15 years, the regime led by Sheikh Hasina has transformed Bangladesh into a state of fear and repression. Forced disappearances, extrajudicial executions, arbitrary arrests, and torture have become the instrument of the government that has suspended opposition and compromised democratic institutions. More than 3,500 people have disappeared under this regime. It is clear that these actions cannot be ignored. Hasina's removal, influenced by massive protests all over the country, has provided an opportunity for change. Now, the interim government, led by Muhammad Yunus, has promised to implement reforms. However, we are seeing again abuses affecting the transition, political arrests, media intimidation, and judiciary used as an instrument of revenge. The repression must end. Bangladesh cannot continue its downward trajectory. In these crucial moments, the interim government must implement real and lasting reforms. Reforms should be focused on separation of power and ensuring political neutrality across institutions. Justice must be served for the victims of forced disappearances, and support must be provided to their families. Press freedom must be restored, and journalists need protection and guarantees of their independence. International human rights monitors must be allowed to do their job and have access to crisis-affected areas. I firmly believe that all of us, the European Union and the international community, must remain vigilant and support reforms in Bangladesh. Any delay or compromise will allow repression to return. For this reason, our delegation for South Asia will discuss with the Embassy of Bangladesh in the Kingdom of Belgium and with the representatives of human rights organizations in a debate at the end of March 2025. Thank you.
Thank you very much, MEP Struzza, for your insight, and we are lucky to have you because you are the chair of South Asia delegation. And thank you for mentioning that you are keeping the dialogue with the ambassador of Bangladesh as well as the human rights representatives, which means civil society. And this is very important, as you said, as you mentioned, the separation of power.
I would like to add only one thing, not further than yesterday. I was speaking also about another country, Pakistan, and we were speaking about how many tools we have together to try to put some pressure and to force those regimes to respect some international common sense rules. So, except the GPS Plus tool, we have to strongly, firmly have a look in detecting exactly what are the other tools in order to try to put some pressure in order to help the people of Bangladesh also to have more democracy and more freedom. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was really interesting and very inspiring speech. Thank you. We want to welcome now MEP Falcone, who is a member of the Committee on Economic and Monetary Affairs and also substitute in the delegation with relations with India. We are really happy to have you today, and thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Grazie. Vorrei intanto ringraziare soltanto e porgere il saluto al nostro capo delegazione Fulvio Martuscello per l'iniziativa assolutamente attuale, importante, che deve vedere il Parlamento europeo protagonista nella salvaguardia e nel rispetto appunto dei diritti umani. Lo dobbiamo fare in Bangladesh, ma lo dobbiamo fare in tutti i paesi terzi in cui oggi nel mondo non vengono rispettati i diritti umani, soprattutto quello dei minori. Per cui è il nostro sacrosanto non soltanto dovere, ma è anche una nostra aspettativa, deve essere una nostra gioia, deve essere una nostra attitudine, quella di salvaguardare e di far rispettare i diritti umani in tutto il mondo. Grazie, Ad Maiora.
Thank you, MEP Falcone, and thank you for reminding that the European Parliament plays an important role to respect the human rights everywhere in the world, not necessarily in the EU, but also outside the EU, as well as with the partners, with economic partners like Pakistan, Bangladesh, and other partners worldwide. Now we move to another speaker who is a human rights activist and also a member, who is a Norwegian politician, Himanshu Gulati, who is a Norwegian politician from the Progress Party. Mr. Gulati was born in Norway to an Indian immigrant family and studied economics and leadership at the Norwegian Business School while taking classes in filmmaking at an academy in India. Mr. Gulati's interest in politics developed early as he joined the Progress Party Youth at the age of 15. He served as a vice president for 2 years and then led the youth organization as president from 2012 to 2014. He then took steps towards the government when he joined the Ministry of Justice and Public Security as state secretary. Since 2017, he has served as a national representative on the Justice Committee in the Norwegian Parliament. Mr. Gulati, the floor is yours, and thank you for joining from Norway, and we are really lucky to have you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, and I am both a member of the Norwegian Parliament and the Nordic Parliament Council, and I've also served as a Deputy Minister to the Prime Minister of Norway, so it's a real honor to be invited for this important meeting, and I would like to thank the Global Human Rights Defense, Mr. Sittel and his entire team, the European Association for the Defense of Minorities. Thank you for chairing this. The Bangladesh Stop Hate Movement, all the MEPs who are present here. I would especially like to thank you for speaking up and being here, and also to my Norwegian friend Erik Selle, who spoke about his relationship with Bangladesh. And since the change of government in Bangladesh in August 2024, there has been a marked increase in violence against minority communities. It's a shame, but we've all seen it, and both reports and eyewitnesses have indicated many incidents that do, in fact, show escalation of persecution against minorities. And this terrorization of minority communities needs urgent international attention. We cannot, in the year 2025, live here with a good conscience, seeing that people are being attacked in a country like Bangladesh just because they follow a certain faith. That cannot be accepted. And these atrocities have been both against Hindus, against Christians, against Buddhists, and is completely unacceptable. Some of the biggest incidents we have seen have been against ISKCON, the Krishna Consciousness Society, known for its humanitarian work, both with their centers being destroyed, animals, cows being killed, and also in reports that their assets have been frozen. We've also seen destruction of religious sites, churches, temples, Buddhist shrines, as well as widespread looting and violence, not least of minority-owned homes, but also reports of gender-based violence, including rape, murder, forcefully conversions, all things that we as human beings cannot accept. And this has escalated and happened after the change of government that happened last year. Being a Norwegian, we are very proud in Norway that we are the host of the Nobel Peace Prize award, which is perhaps the most recognized peace prize in the world. And the current caretaker Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Mr. Mohamed Yunus, is also a recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize several years back for a different issue on microfinancing. But regardless of that, a recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize has an extra responsibility to make sure that people are safe and not being persecuted or subject to atrocities because of their religion. So I speak up to him. I urge him, take that responsibility. Stand up to that award, that recognition you've been given, because the current situation in Bangladesh is not worthy of that award. And we, as members of the international community, should also raise our voices and say that what is happening right now is not acceptable. As a member of Parliament in Norway, I also nominated 2 movements for the Nobel Peace Prize before this year's deadline expired. I both nominated the Bangladesh Stop Hate Movement and also the Bangladesh Hindu Buddhist Christian Unity Council for the work they're specifically doing in trying to address these current atrocities and make them stop. I am myself a Hindu, a Norwegian Hindu, but all my political life I have fought for the defense of other minorities, whether it be Yazidis in Iraq, and I personally try to help many Yazidis who were victims of sex slavery and other things in Iraq during the ISIS war, Ahmadiyya Muslims in Pakistan, victims of anti-Semitism in Europe and elsewhere. But this time I asked Bangladesh regarding Hindus, because in 1971, 25% of Bangladesh were Hindus. Today the rate is below 8%. So I asked Bangladesh, where are your Hindus? Where are your minorities? What have you done to them? We live in a modern world where the atrocities we see are simply not acceptable. And I hope that this important event here in the EU Parliament and other events across the world make a change in Bangladesh. I also know that we have friends of ours who are visiting Bangladesh in the near future. Hopefully we'll be meeting Mr. Yunus, and we urge them and all others to speak up and let's make sure that these atrocities against minorities stop in Bangladesh. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, MP Gulati, for sharing your knowledge about the situation in Bangladesh, and thank you for defending the minorities everywhere in the world, not necessarily the Hindus, but also for supporting the Nobel Peace Prize for Bangladesh Stop Hate Movement. This is very important initiative. We would like to move to our next speaker, who is also a human rights defender, Mr. Thierry Val, who is the president of the Coordination des Associations des Particuliers pour la Liberté de Conscience, a non-profit organization dedicated to the promotion and defense of the fundamental human rights of freedom and conscience. One of Mr. Val's key priorities has been to strengthen the legal and policy framework that protects freedom of conscience in Europe. He has played a pivotal role in shaping the legal landscape and ensuring that individuals and organizations are able to exercise their conscience-based beliefs without discrimination or persecution. Val is also involved in raising awareness about this fundamental right by organizing educational campaigns, conferences, and publishing research. Additionally, he provides guidance, resources, and legal presentation to those who have encountered discrimination or persecution due to their beliefs or conscience-based decisions. Mr. Thierry Val, the floor is yours, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for the presentation. Distinguished member of the European Parliament, esteemed colleagues, I would like to express my profound gratitude for the MEPs that organized this conference and for global human rights defense. And Mr. Sita, we have been working a long time on those issues and other issues in Pakistan, and to providing this critical platform to discuss the complex landscape of minority rights in Bangladesh. As Manel stated, CAP Liberté de Conscience is an international non-governmental organization dedicated to defending human rights, with a specialized focus on protecting religious minorities worldwide. While our expertise centers on religious freedom, we recognize that a comprehensive understanding requires insight from diverse expert perspectives. Recent United Nations and international assessments have highlighted significant challenges in Bangladesh human rights environment. The UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights press release from February 2025 explicitly describes a brutal systematic repression affecting vulnerable populations, particularly religious minorities. According to the OHCHR's preliminary analysis of recent protests and unrest in Bangladesh, the human rights situation has dramatically deteriorated. The report emphasizes that the political upheaval following the January 2024 election and the subsequent July revolution has led widespread violation of fundamental rights. Key observations from the UN reports include excessive use of force by law enforcement agencies, systematic suppression of political opposition, severe restrictions on freedom of expression and assembly, targeted persecution of religious and ethnic minorities. The OHCHR specifically noted that the interim government, despite initial promise of reform, has continued to demonstrate a pattern of human rights abuses. The UN expert called for immediate and unconditional release of detainees, implementation of judicial reforms, ensuring judicial integrity and independence, protecting freedom of expression, association, and peaceful assembly, holding perpetrators of human rights violations accountable. Those findings underscore the critical and urgent need for comprehensive human rights reform in Bangladesh, with particular attention to protecting the rights of vulnerable minority communities. Drawing from the Global Human Rights Defense Annual Report 2024, the situation for religious minorities in Bangladesh remains critically precarious. The report indicates that indigenous communities and religious minorities continue to face systematic marginalization, experiencing persistent discrimination, social exclusion, and targeted violence. Through extensive research and documentation, the report outlines key observations that underscore the challenge faced by those groups. First, systematic social and institutional discrimination. Minority religious communities, including Hindu, Buddhist, and Ahmadiyya, experience pervasive discrimination in various societal domains, particularly in education, employment, and the justice system, which often lacks impartiality. Limited legal protections. The report outlines the inadequacy of legal protection for minority groups, as laws that should safeguard their rights are frequently ignored or poorly implemented, leaving them vulnerable to abuse and societal violence. Increased vulnerability during political instability. Political unrest exacerbates the existing vulnerabilities of religious minorities. The report states the climate of fear during periods of political upheaval often leads to intensified violence against these groups, further entrenching their marginalizations. Persistent threats of cultural and religious practices. Minority communities face restriction on their religious freedom, which reports of intimidation, harassment, and violence aim to suppressing their cultural expressions and practices. These elements collectively illustrate a dire situation that necessitates urgent international intention and intervention to uphold human rights and protect the dignity of religious minorities in Bangladesh. Ahmadiyya community, a critical case of study. The Ahmadiyya community represents a particularly vulnerable religious minority in Bangladesh. CAP Liberté de Conscience has extensively documented the challenges, including our 2023 submission to the Universal Periodic Review, which highlighted three critical concerns: systematic social and legal discrimination, increased risk of targeted violence, limitation on religious practice and expression. And for this specific event today, based on documentation collected by CAP Liberté de Conscience and the International Human Rights Committee between August 2024 and February 2025, we present for detailed case studies that illustrate the systematic persecution of religious minorities, particularly the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in Bangladesh. Ahmad Agna attack in August 5, 2024, a coordinated assault targeted the Ahmadiyya community in Penchagar, involving systematic attacks at 117 Ahmadiyya houses. Complete vandalization and burning of properties, destruction of the main Ahmadiyya mosque, burning of 10 motorbikes, attacks on Jaima Ahmadiyya Theological School. 22 Ahmadis injured, including a 6-year-old Chanriya Raki, who tragically died after 3 months of medical treatment due to severe head injury. Targeted religious and infrastructure destruction. Multiple Ahmadiyya mosques were systematically attacked across different districts. Judicial and administrative harassment. Sophisticated legal and administrative persecution was documented, including false case filed against Ahmadiyya community leader in detention of a 16-year-old Ahmadiyya boy after a fabricated social media controversy, threats to resolve legitimate legal case against attackers, systematic attempts to marginalize the community through legal manipulation, organization of radical mobilization, documented evidence of organized radical movement against Ahmadiyya community. In October 24, 2024, conference demanding Ahmadi to be declared non-Muslim, 6 months ultimatum to the interim government, demand to prohibit Ahmadiyya religious practices, including banning use of Islamic terminologies, prohibiting mosque call and azan, banning Ahmadiyya publication and activities. The total financial damage from these attacks was estimated at approximately 200 million taka, demonstrating the systematic and organized nature of the persecution. These incidents reveal a pattern of targeted systematic persecution that extends beyond isolated incidents, representing a structured approach to marginalizing and eliminating religious minority rights in Bangladesh. These documented incidents reveal a systematic pattern of religious minority persecution in Bangladesh, underscoring the urgent need for coordinated international intervention and highlighting the critical role of the European Union can play in promoting human rights protection and restoring an environment of mutual tolerance and respect. The European Union has constantly expressed concern regarding Bangladesh's human rights situation. The Council of the European Union statement from January 2024 emphasized the importance of democratic processes, rule of law, and protecting of minority rights. Driven by hopes and a commitment to meaningful change, we believe the following strategic approaches could help transform the current landscape and protect the rights of vulnerable communities. Conditional development assistance implement human rights performance metrics as a criteria for bilateral aid and cooperation. Diplomatic engagement maintain consistent diplomatic pressure on facing minority rights protection. Support for civil society, provide targeted funding and protection mechanisms for human rights organizations operating in Bangladesh. International monitoring, advocate for continued UN and international human rights monitoring missions. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Mr. Thirival, and let me remind all the participants that your NGO is ECOSOC, which is it's recognized by the United Nations, and you work closely with the United Nations, and you have been working on this issue for so many years, like Bangladesh, Pakistan, and human rights and minorities. Thank you for standing for human rights and minorities' rights all over the world. Our next speaker is MEP Ian Rers Bogdan, who has just arrived. Thank you for coming, for joining us today. And he is a journalist and politician, so we are lucky today to have someone who has communication and journalism background, and who is going, of course, to defend journalists as a committed journalist. A member of the National Liberal Party, he sat in the European Parliament since July 2019 as part of the EPP group. He began his media career in 2004 as the founder of the Cluj Daily Ziua, sorry for my pronunciation. In 2012, he joined reality TV in Bucharest, where he held the position of editor-director and became an influential media figure in Romania. In 2019, Mr. Bogdan joined the National Liberal Party and was chosen to lead the party's list in the European election of the same year. Elected MEP, he is currently chairman of the Delegation for Relations with Iraq, vice chairman in the Foreign Affairs Committee. He is also a member of several delegations, including those for relations with the United States and Belarus. Thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. I work in mass media only 25 years.
But you have the experience.
Yes, yes. No, it's okay. In a joke. I speak in Italian language now, in rispetto per mio Fulvio, grande amico Fulvio. Grazie, amico Fulvio, per avermi dato l'opportunità di parlare per coloro che non possono farlo. È un dovere d'onore dell'uomo quello di non passare indifferente davanti a una tragedia, non voltarsi dall'altra parte quando un tua prossima ha bisogno di aiuto. Soprattutto quando si tratta di donne alle quali Dio ha dato la gioia di mettere al mondo dei figli e di farci sperare di diventare migliori. La umanità è un bivio che, se non se ne rendiamo conto, rischiamo di perdere. L'intolleranza nei confronti di chi è diverso, di chi ha una fede diversa, i discorsi di odio, l'istigazione all'estinzione di popoli e atteggiamenti sono la prova migliore che qualcuno ci ha messo la zampino. In molte parti del mondo, ed elencarle tutte richiederebbe una settimana. Non c'è solo la situazione di Bangladesh, dove le minoranze sono maltrattate, discriminate, private dei diritti più elementari. Basti pensare che ci sono regioni in cui si parli in pubblico nella tua lingua madre rischi una pallottola e chi che purtroppo è finita l'umanità. Invece di goderci l'un altro, di imparare insieme, di congratularci per ogni momento di successo, finiamo per invidiarci l'un altro, per rubarci le risorse a vicenda, per dimenticare che mangiamo con una bocca sola. A volte vorrei salire in cima a una montagna e gridare «Basta!». Probabilmente sarei considerato un pazzo. È diventato quasi una follia dire che si difendono i valori tradizionali, che tu hai la tua normalità e altro ha la sua normalità e che dobbiamo ripeterci a vicenda. Certe parole potrebbero essere semplicemente vietate. Vi rendete conto? Come rifiutare un uomo perché prega in modo diverso da te? Come voltargli le spalle perché ha un colore della pelle diverso? Come impedire a una donna di lavorare in un ufficio? In Bangladesh, uno stato etnicamente eterogeneo, le minoranze religiose subiscono gravi abusi, tracchiatacci fisici, discriminazioni sociali e matrimoni forzati. Proteggerle non è solo una questione di giustizia sociale, ma una responsabilità globale. E ciò significa un'azione ferma e immediata da parte dell'autorità nazionale e internazionale. Perché è così importante proteggere le minoranze? Primo è una dimostrazione di rispetto per la dignità umana. Ogni individuo ha diritto alla vita, alla sicurezza e alla libertà di esprimere la propria religione e identità culturale senza temere persecuzioni. Quando una società non protegge questi diritti, rischia di creare un clima di odio e divisione in cui i gruppi vulnerabili vengono emarginati, ignorati e sottoposti a violenza. Secondo, dobbiamo costruire società stabili e inclusivi. Quando le minoranze sono al sicuro e possono esprimere liberamente la loro identità e le loro convinzioni, contribuiscono alla diversità culturale e al progresso sociale dell'interezza nazionale. Ogni persona, indipendentemente dalla religione o dalla etnia, può apportare valori e prospettive uniche che sono la società. Insieme siamo più ricchi quando ci sveglieremo. Inoltre la tutela della minoranza è una dimensione importante del rispetto dei diritti umani a livello globale. Le organizzazioni internazionali hanno stabilito degli standard per la protezione dei gruppi vulnerabili che devono essere rispettati a Bruxelles e a Dhaka. Il Bangladesh, come molti altri paesi, deve rafforzare la propria legislazione e le misure di protezione per le minoranze religiose e etnici. Quanto accaduto a Netrakona, dove una giovane donna hindu è stata brutalmente attaccata da radicali musulmani, non è purtroppo un caso isolato. Questo tipo di comportamento non può essere tollerato. È essenziale che il governo del Bangladesh adotti misure drastiche per combattere l'estremismo religioso, proteggere le vittime della violenza e prevenire simili incidenti. Proteggere i diritti della minoranza non è solo un obbligo legale, ma un dovere d'onore. Questa è moralità. Noi, cristiani, abbiamo al centro della nostra fede l'amore, il perdono, la tolleranza. Abbiamo ricevuto il dono della salvezza a condizione di amare i nostri vicini, i nostri genitori, di avere pazienza con coloro che non capiamo, di cercare la verità e la giustizia. La giustizia deve diventare la regola anche in Bangladesh. Che Dio ci aiuti. Molto grazie.
Thank you very much, MEP Bogdan, for speaking about social justice and the protection of minorities as well as human dignities and the fact of fighting against hate, marginalization and violence and the importance of cultural diversity in society. So as you mentioned in your conclusion, the intolerance is really a threat to our societies, and we must look for truth and justice. Thank you very much. We have a speaker online who is joining from Bangladesh. I don't know if he is connected, but this speaker is very important because he lives the situation, the human rights situation there, and he's also as well an expert in defending human rights. He is Dr. Shandar Kumar Sarkar. I don't know if Dr. Sarkar is connected now. Dr. Sarkar, do you hear me? So Dr. Sarkar is an economist, researcher, and professor. He completed his bachelor degree and master's degree in economics with specialization in econometrics and operation research from the University of Calcutta in India. He went on to complete a PhD in international relations at the University of Dhaka, where he now works in the Department of Economics. He has contributed to numerous academic publications and researches focusing on a multidisciplinary and holistic approach to economics. Dr. Sarkar is now based in Bangladesh, where he is a strong human rights advocate working on indigenous rights and access to public resources, social conditions of women workers, and health issues such as teenagers' reproductive health. So we are waiting for Dr. Sarkar to join us and speak about the human rights situation right now in Bangladesh. He's here. Do you hear us? Okay, I think we have a small problem with connection, so maybe we come back to Dr. Sarkar later. In the meantime, we continue the discussion. And I would like to leave the floor now to MEP Martuccello, because he is one of the defenders of human rights in South Asia and Bangladesh, and he is the MEP host, and he is committed to the defense of human rights and minorities' rights, as well as women's rights in the region. Thank you for hosting, and thank you for joining us.
I'm really happy to host this event. It's really interesting to hear all the speech of my colleague. 7 colleagues decided to join us. It is really important. It's the demonstration of that EPP, the member of the parliament, follow this topic. So let me welcome you on behalf of my colleagues and the EU delegation for South Asia in this seminar, which addresses the human rights violations regarding minorities in Bangladesh, mainly Hindus and Christians. We have been following closely the situation of minorities and women in Bangladesh since the fall of the regime, and we are worried about the situation of the different religious and ethnic groups since the rise of extremist groups which target temples, religious sites, as well as women and children. We gather today to discuss about this urgent matter and raise awareness about the situation in an attempt to take action and support activists and journalists. A fact-finding report by the United Nations Human Rights provided the evidence of violent mob attacks, including assaults on place of worship of Hindus. I would like to thank all the participants, and I wish you a fruitful debate. I'm so happy that we are discussing about this topic. We know that democracy has to be to follow in Bangladesh. So it's important that we have a strong light about what is happening in Bangladesh. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very much, MEP Martuccello, for sharing your insights about the event, and thank you for supporting human rights and minorities' rights in South Asia. So, as we are waiting for our speaker to join, I'd like to make a small reminder that on addressing this special and urgent matter, which is human rights violations in Bangladesh and the situation of minorities, as well as women and young girls who are discriminated against and persecuted by the extremist groups. On Monday, British MPs Priti Patel and Barry Gardiner raised the issue of violence against Hindus in Bangladesh during a session in the UK Parliament. Gardiner, the Labour MP representing Brent West, requested a statement from the Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs regarding the circumstances in Bangladesh and the recent assaults on the Hindu community. So today in the European Parliament we raised the same topic. Following Hasina's government fall, there were allegations and assaults on Hindus and vandalism of temples and minority-owned businesses. Attacks on the community increased, particularly in southern Bangladesh, as a result of unrest sparked by the arrest of monk Chimuni Krisha Das. In recent months, 88 incidents have resulted in the arrest of 70 people, and the interim administration has stated that it is dedicated to defending minorities. As political factions struggle, societal content and violence have persisted. Minorities, including Hindus and Christians, became an easy, I quote, punching bag where there is a much rage. A UN fact-finding mission claims that at least 100 people have been arrested by Bangladesh interim administration in relation to attacks on indigenous and religious groups. Pastor Rajiv, who is really a member of the Christian leadership team in Bangladesh, was attacked and his residence was set on fire. His 2 dogs were poisoned and murdered a few weeks before that. He kept these dogs on the property to keep his family and belongings safe. The Bangladesh Hindu-Buddhist Christian Unity Council, which MP Gulati mentioned, stated that the administration and the Nobel Peace Prize winner Muhammad Yunus failed to protect minorities. For all these reasons, we address today this issue together with human rights organizations and EU political leaders to raise awareness about the human rights situation in Bangladesh, as well as to take action to end discrimination and violence against women and girls. If we have Mr. Sarkar joining, no?
Yeah, we have it, but there is no...
Okay, there is problem with the sound. So maybe we can proceed with the questions in the meantime before the arrival of our last speaker, MEP. So we have a question to the speakers, like the panel of experts and human rights activists, but also politicians. Given that Bangladesh is the least developed country and benefits from the EU Generalized System of Preferences, GSP+, has there any consideration of reviewing this benefit in the light of human rights abuses in Bangladesh? You have the experience about with Bangladesh GPS Plus. How do you think?
More with Pakistan GSP Plus
Yes.
than Bangladesh.
How can you compare the situation, and how can we, like, how can the EU do the same with Bangladesh?
So, any countries that signed the GSP Plus have to sign many treaty, human rights treaty, ICCPR from the United Nations, for European Convention for Human Rights, and so on. So, it will be over Europe to push these treaties to be applied on the country. And when such flagrant violations are shown as today and demonstrated by many NGOs and politicians around the world, for sure that would be a pressure to Bangladesh to, as human rights commissioner from Europe, he went to Pakistan a few weeks ago, or a few days ago, and he said to Pakistan that the GSP Plus is not granted. It's something that to be challenged by the European Union, and I guess it's over to us, MEPs, NGOs, and any person dedicated to human rights to push the European Union to apply all those treaties and to challenge GSP Plus for Pakistan. And that is a topic of my next side event at the UN, and for Bangladesh also, because this is a topic of today's, and for any countries that violated human rights. So GSP Plus should be a tool for us, and to find. The most difficult is to find how the GSP Plus is working and which mechanisms we can push to get the European Union and the EAS to apply human rights. The European Commissioner for Human Rights did a good job in his last trip to Pakistan. He really challenged Pakistan, saying, okay, it's not granted. Pakistan has to show how the human rights are improved in Pakistan. So over to us to find the good way to push these tools. Is one of the many tools we have to push Bangladesh be back on human rights.
Thank you very much. As you mentioned, GPS Plus is working. I mean, with Pakistan, so I think it should work also with Bangladesh. We have Dr. Sarkar, who is joining us from Bangladesh. Dr. Sarkar, thank you for joining, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hearing me?
We do hear you. We do hear you now, but before, unfortunately, we didn't hear you. Yeah.
Fine, thank you very much. Honorable guests, distinguished delegates, and esteemed friends. Thank you, give me that opportunity to speak on these critical issues, a review of human rights violation 2024 to 2025. Today I stand before you to discuss a pressing concern that goes beyond political narratives, human rights dignity at stake, minority violence in Bangladesh. Human rights is the fundamental principle for everyone. Live with dignity, security, and freedom. Yet, in recent times, we witness disturbing in rise violence and discriminations against minorities. So, it is a threat not only for the local fabrics in Bangladesh, but also challenge the global commitment to justice and equality and equality. In Bangladesh, a nation of celebration for its rich cultural diversity and secular foundations, however, Bangladesh is witnessing a growing threat to the secular fabrics of its society. Adding to the gravity of the situation, on January 15, 2025, proposed abolition of secularism from our constitutions headed by the Alidias. This alarming development is compounded by ongoing atrocities that reaching extremes level. This is not merely a political issue, it is human rights issues, and it is human rights crisis actually. I'm just, I think, talking about journey of secularism in Bangladesh. Secularism is included in constitution since 1972, serving hope for unity and religious harmony. In 1977, this pillar was removed, replaced absolute trust and faith in Allah. That is not a problem for us. And in 1980, Islam declared as a state religion. In 2011, secularism reinstated, but status of Islam as the state religions remain, creating a paradox. Secularism is not political principle, rather of fundamental of human rights. Bangladesh is a land of diversity. Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, tribals, and various faiths have coexisted for centuries to centuries. Secularism is actually protectors of this diversity and safeguard. You see, I'm just telling alarming statistics of the escalations of violence in the recent. In last 20 days, August 2024, staging 2010 incidents were reported against minorities, according to Hindu Buddha Christian Parishad. Same organization published a report in 19th January 2025. That was the incidence 174. And continuations, another organization published reports only for 41 days, January to February 10, 2025, 70 incidents, including some murder, kill, rape, forced conversions against minorities. And you see, like worship places demolished their houses, establishments, killed people. Even very important issues is forcefully dismissals like minority teachers. And current you see political landscapes and its impact. You know, this is going to deeply polarized right now at this moment. Tribal people 1.5% only. And you see their gravity, there is a tribal's name, Adivashi's name has removed from the textbook class 9 and class. That's why Adivashi's people did a protest and they terror groups attacked and then tortured them. So infiltrations, terror groups coming from home as well as abroad also, and influencing the local extremist sphere and then shrinking democratic space. Radicalization and its devastating impact in Bangladesh. You see, radicalizations and the speed of the hate propaganda have led to series of horrific incidents and extremists to gain momentum. This includes rape, kidnap, forced dismissals, destructions of properties, etc. Tragically, such incidents have become all too common. Political parties fail to act against it and threatening the social harmony and security of the nations. Global awareness and alliance buildings, yes, organize a peaceful demonstration. The Hague and Rome and plan to expand other cities, form a global alliance under the banner of Bangladesh Stop Hate, bringing together locals, tribal community, Christian, Buddhist, Hindus, and religious leaders, local and globals, argue international organization, human rights defenders, and global leaders to pay attention to the unfolding crisis and solidarity to support these who actually marginalized and oppressed. Call to the European Union. The European Union takes strong and decisive actions against perpetrators to stop the crime against humanity. And it is imperative to uphold human rights and ensure justice to oppressed communities. Allowed to submit our report to cross investigations, atrocities to your embassy, and EU initiate a special relief effort to those the homeless and people. Conclusions. I would like to tell you that is in Bangladesh, the majority people are peaceful. However, atrocities are not a new phenomena in Bangladesh. It started from 1947 to 2024 under all regions, including Mujib, Jia, Ershad, Hasina, Khaleda Zia, and interim governments. As a result, we are the minority 23% to 8% and going to extinct soon in future. Demand for the free to our children and that those who are actually now in the jail ensure safety and security to minorities so that they can live peacefully with dignity and respect. Unity and international support can restore hope, dignity, and peace for the affected communities. Stand united against hatred and violence, protect human rights, and rebuild secular fabrics of Bangladesh. We are telling these violations is not a political, it is a violation of human rights. Thank you very much to give me an opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sarkar. Thank you for joining, and thank you for reminding us of the Constitution of Bangladesh, which was based on secularism, a principle which is very important for the European Union. But unfortunately, right now, as you said, there is a big humanitarian crisis, and there is no respect to secular values. So I hope that in the coming elections, maybe there will be a kind of a democratic transition with all political and ethnic minorities would be presented in the parliament, and there will be a constitution in which we mention the importance of secular values. So you can stay with us for the questions. Maybe we can give the floor for the participants, if you don't mind. So I remind you that MEP Moretti will join us in 15 minutes because she's in a debate right now, and she will be ending and closing. She will provide the closing remarks for this meeting. So let's move to the Q&A session before she comes. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Mr. Sell would like to ask a question.
Yes, thank you for joining us today. I have a question when it comes to the caretaker government of Yunus. His lack of interference with these atrocities, do you think it's due to a lack of willingness or a lack of ability? Does he need the stick or does he need the carrot?
Yes, can I respond, sir?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, it is a lack of willingness, I would like to tell you. If they want, within 1 day, it will be stopped. There is no issues. They have a power, they have everything. But it's, yes, he is trying, but I feel it's lack of willingness. And that is also his important issues. Another is others also, because there's so many things he has to compromise. That is the main issue, what I feel.
Thank you very much. I would like to tell you that you can have the refreshments in the meantime if you want, because yeah, we'll have to leave the room by 4:30. So please feel free to have a drink, and we continue the discussion in the meantime. Yes, yes, sir.
Yes, I would also like to ask that the atrocities that we especially saw after the protests and the change of government, have they declined in intensity or can you just say a little bit about what is the status now? What is the situation now compared to earlier? Is this still happening regularly, or is it less than earlier?
Yes, it is. This situation is not like improved. Situations is more or less, is the same, and that is same atrocities is going on, and then one is a devil hunt is going on, and that's why people also fear. But still, and situation is not under control. It is sad.
Professor, sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Professor Sarkar, I just want to ask you, see, we are used to in the Netherlands that we are getting death threats from Pakistan, and recently we are getting also from Bangladesh as an organization. As you are based in Bangladesh and you are in the front of all this protest and fighting for equality for minorities, are you also being threatened by any organization for your life or your family or people who are working with you?
Yes, it's a lot of his fellow friends, are in the put in the bar and jail, and there is a waiting for a height, or that is the case against them, including myself. So this is situations. We're not to just able to go any peaceful protest, a protest.
And who comes with these threats? If we don't, who are coming with the threats?
Say say unknown phone calls and others, and sometimes if our peoples are going to organize a program, they are not allowed, they are not to give a permission, so you not to do that. So it's that types of state, and then they will allow one in the field to do the program, and then also suddenly they has a cancel. Other people know you will not to do that because security reasons and others. That types of state always is going.
Yes, Miss. Yeah.
Thank you. This is a question also to Professor Sarkar, but maybe also to Monsieur Val. Since you have mentioned the OHCHR report that has just been launched, I think, roughly a week ago. It's a very comprehensive report. It looks into the atrocities during the July and August protests, but also gives a bit of an outlook on the continued violations of human rights in Bangladesh after the regime change. Now, what we've been hearing is some allegations that the report may be a bit of a biased nature, to the extent that it was alleged that sources consulted were very close to Dr. Yunus, and that it may not be the most independent fact-finding indeed. And I was wondering if any of you heard of these allegations, if you had anything to address them, or if, in your opinion, in your very much qualified opinion, the report is a good piece of work. Thank you.
Yes, you are right. Few report what actually Hindu Upanishad is their report, that is our interim governments and press wings. He told, but he also just agree that is some violations is happened due to their religious belief, and few that is investigation they got some killings is a political just affiliation, that's why it's a torture reason. But as a human rights activist, I'm telling is all violence actually is human rights violations. In Bangladesh, you see how many people are Hindus. We are only for a 7%. How many people are they just do politics, and how many votes they are giving for a vote? Only very few. So it's a human rights violation. Yes, they are not investigate altogether, but there's just what they got found. Few are, yes, religious violation, and few killings they're told this is not a killings for a religious violation, it is for a political violation. But it's not completed yet. Few factions of the report, the cross checks. Yes, you are right.
Thank you. I think Mr. Sell has a question. Okay. Thierry Val. Okay. Yes.
In fact, the professor answers the question, it was also my question, how is effective all these reports, our initiative, for instance, today's event, how it can help you. It is helping you. You have some echo in Bangladesh, such initiative, or if we organize a statement at the next Human Rights Council, or everything we can push through the different rapporteur or special rapporteur, how it can help you. In fact, the basic things is what we are doing here is it is helping you or not. And or if not, how we can helping you to have tools to combat this discrimination and human rights violation in Bangladesh.
Yes, I would like to tell, I already told you, Bangladeshi people's majorities are peaceful, but a few are as fanatics, extremes, true. But it's what I'm just telling to you, you have to just, I think, like investigate, and then those who are really victims, you can just, I think, support them, and you just, I think, do them, and even you can suggest, like, this is the what actually happened, and then cross checks and find out what are the root cause. But we are telling as human rights, it is a human rights violations. And yes, some is people need to just support. That is, if you just, I think, like tell to our governments and other authorities, they will come for what is true, and it will be stopped, must have to stop. That is actually where we do.
Thank you. Yes.
I just want to add to that real quick. We are in close collaboration with the UN Special Rapporteur for Minority Issues, Professor Levrat, and we are aware of the fact that he has requested an immediate visit to Bangladesh. He is aware of the situation, also of the deteriorating state of human rights currently, and he plans. He would love to help, but of course, as you may know, those issues are dependent on receiving a standing invitation and being allowed into the country. But this is something that we would also, of course, look forward to helping you with.
I just want to add that we are requesting the Special Rapporteur to visit Bangladesh, and it will be a stronger message if we can have delegates also from the European Union joining in, and also from NGOs who can be together traveling with a Special Rapporteur on the field visit and have a better understanding what is going on. So we will send a request to NGOs and to the European Union to make it a more bigger group, so that the government of the Bangladesh cannot ignore or maybe don't give us visa. So when you have the European Union with us and the Special Rapporteur, I think we can have a strong message to the Bangladesh government that now is time to act.
Yes, thank you. I think that also from the part of the MEPs in the European Parliament, there is a connection with the EU ambassador in Bangladesh, who is also on the floor there. So I think they can also communicate with him to transfer the information from human rights NGOs and also from civil society about what is happening. And of course, the idea of having a delegation with the UN rapporteur together with the EU ambassador in Bangladesh would be a good idea as well. Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Sarkar, I have weekly communication with the Christian leaders in Pakistan, who are also suffering tremendously. The blasphemy laws is an instrument of terror for all minorities. So my question to you is, the extremist violence that we are seeing in Bangladesh now, are there any connections as far as you see to Pakistani groups that is kind of pushing into Bangladesh?
There is no any blasphemy law in our country directly like Pakistan. But yes, what you are asking questions is true. We just gaze. That is the some influenced, and there is a external some forces, which is a collaboration with the local. And here is also one thing is any insult Prophet Muhammad, anytime anyone can put it to the bar and then life threatens. We have just investigated and GSR is here, like so many people, students are working, and there is so many students, what actually we have a report, they just lost their studentship due to this insult Islam in Bangladesh.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions to Dr. Sarkar? Yes, please.
Good morning. I have a question for Dr. Sell or Dr. Gulati, in particular because we are speaking about this issue and also the international responses that there could be. And I was curious about also which can be the national responses. So, for example, in this case from Norway, which can be the role of national parliament or national governments for this issue, in particular with regard for Norway. Thank you.
Thank you, and that I will also use the opportunity to answer the question that you asked before Mr. Sarkar started his presentation, which was what can Europe do? And as far as what the European Parliament should do, since Norway is not a member of the EU, I would leave that to the MEPs. But in general, what I would say is that as countries where we are giving international aid and support in other capacities, we should be able to demand that countries act in a certain way. We should, and whether it's to receive the aid that one is offering or other support. And the more we speak up, the more Bangladesh will realize, the government of Bangladesh will realize that they cannot let this issue be. The worst thing we can do for the citizens in Bangladesh, and especially the minorities, is to neglect this issue. Act as if it doesn't exist, because if the world's attention is not towards Bangladesh, then the government and others there can continue as they want. But when they see that we are following, we are watching, and that we also have demands with whatever help we are offering, I think that's the best way of making sure that change that is absolutely needed happens.
Yeah, I think also it's important for Europe to regain our self-confidence. From Norway's point of view, I think the Nobel Peace Committee has a big responsibility here because of the peace prize that Yunus carries. There's a responsibility with that prize. But I also think that, as we all know, we have a big amount of immigration to Europe where people build mosques. We should demand that at least Christians are protected in those countries where Islam dominates. A bit more quid pro quo, more balance in the relationship, I think would help generally.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We welcome now MEP Alessandra Moretti. We are very honored to have her today. So she is a member of Democratic Party in 2009 and in 2014 was elected to the municipal elections of Vicenza and appointed deputy mayor with the delegation for education and youth. In 2014, she was elected as member of the European Parliament, and also in 2019 she was re-elected as member of the group of the Progressive Alliance of Socialists and Democrats. Additionally, she was part of the European Parliament's delegation for relations with Japan, a member of the Spinelli Group, and a member of the European Parliament Intergroup on Children's Rights. Thank you, MEP Moretti, for your presence today, and I leave you the conclusion. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here with you. It's an honor for me. And thanks to my colleagues Fulvio Martuscello. I will continue in my language, Italian. And so grazie mille, grazie Fulvio per questa opportunità che mi hai dato per essere parte di una conferenza così importante, e ringrazio anche la Global Human Rights Defense per il loro lavoro straordinario di impegno nella difesa dei diritti umani. È necessario senz'altro accendere i riflettori su una realtà diventata ormai, la definisco così, strutturale in tutti i conflitti, ovvero la violenza contro le donne. Ogni crisi politica, ogni guerra Ogni collasso democratico si traduce prima di tutto in una tragedia per le donne, il cui corpo viene spesso utilizzato per annientare i popoli. Ce lo ricorda il conflitto in Ucraina, ce lo ricorda il conflitto in Medio Oriente, il Congo, Haiti e la recente crisi in Bangladesh, che ne è una prova drammatica. Come sappiamo, dopo la caduta del governo, il paese è stato travolto da una serie di violenze inaudite in cui le donne appunto hanno pagato il prezzo più alto. Manifestanti pacifiche sono state picchiate, arrestate, umiliate pubblicamente per aver osato alzare la voce. Nell'area della Chittagong Hill Tracts donne indigene sono state rapite, aggredite e stuprate con l'impunità garantita ai criminali protetti da uno Stato assente. Gli abusi e la violenza di genere però non si fermano nelle piazze, le donne vengono infatti sistematicamente escluse dalla vita politica, dalla vita economica del paese, senza dare loro strumenti per difendersi o chiedere giustizia. Tanto è vero che Amnesty International riporta un aumento dell'8% dei casi di violenza di genere rispetto allo scorso anno, eppure i responsabili non vengono mai condannati. Questi però non sono casi isolati. In ogni parte del mondo dove la democrazia arretra, i diritti delle donne sono i primi ad essere calpestati, e questo non è solo un problema delle vittime, è un fallimento della comunità internazionale. È nostro dovere non restare in silenzio ed è per questo che io ringrazio Fulvio per aver voluto questo incontro. Ma non dobbiamo guardare solo alla violenza, perché anche l'oppressione economica, sociale pesa gravemente sulle donne e sui minori. In Bangladesh, uno dei paesi più poveri dell'Asia, il secondo produttore di abbigliamento al mondo, dopo la Cina, con circa 3.500 industrie tessili dove 9 milioni di persone lavorano in condizioni disumane e spesso pericolose. Il settore tessile è infatti un esempio emblematico di sfruttamento e abuso, la tragedia del Rana Plaza di Savar, dove più di 1.100 lavoratori sono morti, hanno perso il controllo la vita da un crollo di un edificio insicuro. E l'80% delle vittime chi erano? Erano operaie tessili, donne che lavoravano in condizioni precarie per i grandi marchi internazionali. Quella strage fu il simbolo di un sistema produttivo che calpesta la dignità umana in nome del profitto, e a soffrire sono soprattutto i minori, appartenenti alle minoranze etniche, i bambini di strada, i migranti climatici, che diventano più facilmente vittime di sfruttamento minorile con paghe da fame e condizioni di lavoro pessime contro cui non possono difendersi. Soltanto l'istruzione, l'educazione può rappresentare una via d'uscita, e grazie ad associazioni umanitarie come la vostra si organizzano progetti educativi in favore dei bambini, delle loro famiglie. In Europa abbiamo stanziato 33,5 milioni di euro per l'assistenza umanitaria in Bangladesh nel 2024, e questi fondi, me lo auguro davvero, sono fondamentali per portare avanti progetti concreti di aiuto. L'Unione Europea ha anche il dovere di garantire però che nessun prodotto venduto nei nostri mercati sia frutto di sfruttamento, ma in realtà non è così. Ci abbiamo provato, ci riproveremo. Però il passaporto, per esempio, digitale, quando dicevamo inseriamo nel passaporto digitale anche la due diligence, serviva proprio per garantire che quei prodotti che arrivano da mercati stranieri, quantomeno non abbiamo proprio la coscienza così sporca, cioè consegniamo dei prodotti, soprattutto alle nuove generazioni, che sono consapevoli dell'acquisto che fanno, no? Il passaporto digitale serve a questo, sapere da dove arriva quel prodotto e chi l'ha prodotto, come e in quali condizioni. Ecco, non possiamo permettere che il profitto calpesti la dignità delle lavoratrici, che il prezzo più basso del prodotto abbia come costo la vita delle persone. E quindi migliorare la condizione di lavoro garantirà un maggiore rispetto dei diritti umani per le loro famiglie e per le persone in generale. Quindi non possiamo chiudere gli occhi rispetto a questi abusi, non possiamo accettare che la violenza contro le donne diventi un'arma di repressione politica o che lo sfruttamento del lavoro minorile e femminile continui impunemente. Quindi l'Unione Europea ha sicuramente l'obbligo di garantire il rispetto dei diritti umani, che questi siano al centro delle nostre relazioni anche commerciali con questi paesi. Non possiamo ovviamente accettare che la violenza contro le donne diventi un'arma di repressione politica. Ecco, David Sassoli ricordava spesso che sui diritti umani, sullo Stato di diritto, non possiamo negoziare, non possiamo fare passi indietro, perché nessuna donna e nessun uomo, nessun bambino, nessuna bambina dovrebbe vivere nella paura di essere punito per il semplice fatto di voler essere libero, di essere punito per il semplice fatto di voler veder migliorata la propria condizione di vita sociale per se stesso e anche per le persone che gli stanno vicino. Grazie ancora.
Thank you. Thank you very much, MEP Moretti, for mentioning women's rights and the need to fight against violence against women, as well as the workers' rights in Bangladesh, climate refugees, and education. What is also important is the EU fund to help Bangladesh and how EU can also put pressure in terms of not negotiating with the human rights, because, as she said, we cannot negotiate with human rights when it has to do with European values, human values, and also liberty and freedom. Thank you very much. So we come to the end of this meeting. I would like to thank everyone for coming here. I would like to thank Mr. Sital, Global Human Rights Defending, Edil, for her introduction, all the speakers, Mr. Gulati, Mr. Sel, Mr. Thirival, MEP Martuccello, for hosting all the MEPs who have been here, and all the participants for this fruitful debate. Thank you so much for your questions, and thank you for being here today and for supporting human rights in Bangladesh. Thank you.
That conflict. Over 3 million people were killed, and Hindus were killed, and in the shadows of South Asia, a silent crisis is unfolding. The Hindu community in Bangladesh, once a thriving part of the nation, now faces a brutal campaign of violence, persecution, and forced displacement. The world remembers the Bangladesh Liberation War, but few recall the systematic targeting of Hindus during that conflict. Over 3 million people were killed, and Hindus bore the brunt of this massacre. Today, history is repeating itself. Their temples are destroyed, their women were assaulted, their homes torched. The message is clear: leave or perish. And yet, the world remains silent. They came in the night, they burned our village, they took my daughter. No one came to help us. We are alone. From nearly 30% in 1947 to less than 8% today, the Hindu population in Bangladesh is vanishing. What does that tell us? Systematic persecution is happening before our very eyes. But there is hope. Human rights activists and concerned citizens around the world are demanding accountability. We must act now. The European Union and its member states maintain strong political and economic ties with Bangladesh. These relationships provide leverage to demand accountability for human rights abuses. Yet, EUing trade agreements under the Generalized Scheme of Preferences, GAP, and development aid programs, leaders remain hesitant to take decisive action. Why? Is economic interest overshadowing human rights? The interim government of Bangladesh must be held responsible for these crimes against humanity. We urge world leaders, the United Nations, and every human rights organization to take immediate action. Sanctions, investigations, protection for the persecuted. If we remain silent, we are complicit. Raise your voice. Demand justice. Stand with the oppressed before it is too late.